There are so many choices nowadays when it comes to a flagship smartphone that we're just really spoilt for choice. But today I've got what promises to be a really highly specified smartphone in the shape of the Huawei Mate 10 Pro, and I've been testing this for a week now, and I found it overall to be a really enjoyable experience. Now in this particular video I'm going to take a look at the screen quality, the overall build quality, the performance, also the user interface, which is quite different from some other Android experiences, and I'll also be showing you some photos that were produced by the camera. Now this isn't going to be a video where I'm going to run through all of the specifications. I will touch on them very briefly, but it's more going to be about my experience with the smartphone, a sort of real world use and how it might work for you. Now if you've watched my videos regularly, you'll know that I've been testing a lot of different smartphones recently, and this again isn't going to be a comparison video, but I might well reference some of them throughout this particular broadcast. So this is the Huawei Mate 10 Pro. It's got a 6-inch screen, 2160 by 1080 resolution I think it is, and it's a very nice display, really nice to look at. I'll give you a close-up of this first of all. Now this isn't going to do it justice by any means, but it'll give you a rough idea of what the display looks like. If it is flickering on your screen, that's just because of the refresh rate of this broadcast, but in sort of true life, or in, you know, to the naked eye, this doesn't flicker. It's just a very nice evenly lit screen, very nice indeed. I like the color tonality of this screen. I think it just looks very evenly lit. It's a little bit cooler looking than some smartphones I've been testing lately. The brightness goes up very bright. Let me pop this up to full brightness. I mean, it's almost blinding at this sort of brightness, but certainly if you're using this outdoors in sunlight, you won't have any trouble at all viewing this in direct sunlight. It's a really nice screen, and when we're up to that maximum brightness as well, the whites are very crisp and white. Now a lot of people say about resolution on this size of screen, and surely it should be a little bit higher. I don't think so. I think this is a perfectly acceptable resolution for this particular screen. So what about the camera? Should we dive straight in and have a look at the camera? I want to start off on a real positive point as well, by looking at the camera, because there are some negatives with this particular smartphone. We'll come on to that a bit later, but the camera is one of the highlights. So let's jump straight across and have a look at some of the photos, because I know this interests a lot of you. This first one is a familiar photo. You will have seen me show you this on screen with my other smartphone reviews. It's a couple of little Christmas ornaments, and the Mate 10 Pro does a fantastic job with regards to photographic and video quality. This is obviously a still photo. We've got really nice detail in the ornaments, especially sort of around the jumper area and the scarf. It really has picked up that well. Not too much of a blur in the background. There wasn't much distance between the foreground and background subjects anyway, but I think it just did a fantastic job there. Now moving on, let's take a look at the next photo. This is a flower, again a familiar photo for those of you who've watched my previous videos, especially my sort of review of the OnePlus 5T. This is more or less the same framing as that particular photo, and I think it just looks extremely good. It really is a nice looking photo. We've got a nice amount of detail. The focal point was right in the center of this particular flower, and I think it just captured it perfectly. A nice sort of deep red to the flower, which is what I was expecting to see, and we also got some blur in the background on this one as well. Now you can actually bring more punchy colours into your photos. There's a setting basically in the camera app for this, and this was taken during my initial unboxing, but I wanted to share it with you again because I only showed you on the screen of the smartphone back then, and it's done an okay job. It's an acquired taste if you're looking for a photo like this. I personally wouldn't take a photo that was this highly saturated, but I wanted to show you it is there as an option. If you want a really dramatic look in your photos, then this could well be worth sort of exploring and sort of trying with certain scenarios. Now, the camera that's taking this is the 12 megapixel RGB sensor with an f1.6 aperture on the rear of the camera. There is also a 20 megapixel monochrome sensor in here, and if I show you how this looks, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Plenty of contrast in this one, and I think it looks fantastic. This is where the Huawei Mate 10 Pro really excels. Superb quality, and with the right subject matter. Again, imagine taking a portrait or a really sort of mood orientated photo in monochrome and having this really striking contrast and really great detail. I think it does a fantastic job. Now, the camera also has a BSI CMOS sensor, phase detect and contrast detect autofocus, and laser and depth autofocus as well. 2 times hybrid zoom. It does 4K video recording and also dual LED flash. Now, don't forget, we've also got the front facing camera. I haven't got any photos to show you from the front facing camera, but I think that the front facing camera is very good as well. The sensor on the front is actually an 8 megapixel sensor, and I think it produces really nice quality selfies. I did this in my initial unboxing and first look, and there was a lot of detail around the sort of hairline. You know, you could see the individual hairs, and even just being 8 megapixel, there was still plenty of detail there. And the tonal quality of the photos overall produced by this is very, very good indeed. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about build quality. I'm actually going to take it out of the case for this. Now, this case came supplied with the smartphone, so added value there. It also comes pre-installed with a screen protector, and the case is a very simple case, of course. It's just a sort of a silicone flexible case. I want to talk to you a little bit about the quality of the hardware, and this again is a very, very positive thing with this smartphone. We've got a glass back, metal around the perimeter of the phone, obviously a glass front, very narrow bezels top and bottom, practically no bezels left and right, and it all makes for a really nice feeling smartphone. It's very nice in the hand. I also like the placement of the power button, volume rockers perfectly placed, and that rear fingerprint sensor. Again, if I just tap on that, you can see it unlock really quickly. I'll do that once more, just a quick tap, trying to show you the finger as well. So quick tap and it's unlocked. Very, very quick indeed. So perfectly placed sensor on the back, and also we've got those dual lenses for the dual cameras on the back as well. Now, a point I want to make is that we've got sensors on the front here. We've got a really nice screen real estate as well. They're very narrow sensors, and we've got a perfectly rectangular screen, so no sort of little tiny rounded edges, no notch out of the top, a nice quality screen, and very nice build quality. It feels like a very luxurious device. Now, Huawei are very well known, in fact, in sort of previous years, for coming out with budget smartphones, and they have crept up in price gradually, as we've seen with all flagship smartphones. But this feels like you're getting something very special. It's nicely presented inside the box. If you haven't seen my unboxing and first look, do check that out. But just the fit and finish on this far exceeds some of the other smartphones I've been testing lately. Just the little attention to detail. We've got this sort of curve to the back where it sort of meets this part here, and then there's just a tiny little sort of bevel to the edge, and then we've got this sort of brushed champagne gold finish on the sides. This is the mocha brown colour, by the way, and then this really nice colour to the back, and as it catches the light, it just looks superb. The buttons are engineered really well. We haven't got a 3.5mm audio jack on here, but we do get an adapter inside the box, and it just feels like a very luxurious smartphone and very, very comfortable in the hand. Now, it is a fingerprint magnet. Don't know about scratches, so I can't comment on that, but that's probably why they provide you with a case inside the box, and I really appreciate that, because one of the first things I do with my devices, and you'll know this already if you're a regular viewer, is that I actually always put a case on and a screen protector from day one, because I like looking after my technology. It adds to the value if you sell it on, also keeps the device looking nice. So if you keep it for a year and then swap out to an upgrade the following year, if it's been in a case with a screen protector on, you've got a nice device to either sell on or to recycle with one of these companies that takes them back in, or to trade in. So the fact that they include this inside the box, really very, very appreciated. So how's my experience been with it? Well, apps have worked fine. Nice performance. The camera has worked fine as well. Browsing on this is fine. Email's fine. The launcher, I'm going to be really honest here, I'm not a great fan of the EMUI launcher. This is running Google Android version 8 out of the box, but I'm just not a big fan of the launcher. I don't know why, I just couldn't get on with it. With regards to storage, we've got 6 GB of RAM in here, 128 GB of storage capacity. Again, the 6 GB of RAM, we're seeing 8 GB in some smartphones now, but we had no problems with slowdown. This has got a Kirin chipset, I think it's called, and it just seemed to perform very well indeed. Really very pleased with it. But just the user interface, or the sort of the skin over the top, I didn't like. It just didn't gel with me. I mean, the settings is very, very simplified. Even though it's running Google Android 8.0 out of the box, when you go into the About phone, it says the Android version is 5.1, which is confusing. And it's running EMUI version 3.1. I thought I had an update. Somebody told me to check for an update, which improved battery life. We'll talk about that in a short while. And I thought that I'd installed the update, but it didn't seem to install the update, which is really very, very strange. Also on here, something else I've just noticed, which is again really strange, is it's reporting 2 GB of RAM. It's almost as though they sent me the wrong smartphone. So really strange reports in this sort of About phone panel. But other than that, it's been really very, very good indeed. Now I'm going to jump back across to the chat because I saw somebody ask here about battery life. Audi123000 says, how is the battery life on the Mate 10 Pro? And for me, the battery life has been not that good. It's been really very, very poor. I had it on good advice to actually check for this update, because somebody else was having really poor battery life, and when they updated to the new version of software, their battery life just was transformed. As I say, I thought I had that update on there, but it didn't install, and I haven't been offered it again, so I don't know quite what went wrong there. But the battery life hasn't been great. It seems to be when it's on standby with the screen turned off, that the battery is pretty much depleted after 24 hours. And normally, if you weren't using the smartphone much, the trickle rate of the battery sort of decharging or discharging would probably be overnight, probably about 3 to 4%, or maybe 5% at the most. But this certainly seems to be getting through battery a lot quicker than I would have liked. But even when you're using it, that said, that's just on standby. If I'm actually using it, the battery doesn't seem to deplete much quicker than if I've got the screen turned off and it's just sort of sitting on the desk. So a little bit disappointed with that. I also saw a question here from Raymond Moore. What kind of colour profile do you prefer in your pics, Dave? Saturated or true to life? Most definitely true to life. I want my photos to look like I'm seeing with the naked eye. And this offers up the saturated look, but generally the photos are very well coloured and a nice tonal quality to them. If I'm going for that dramatic look with a photo, maybe a stormy sky or a sunset, then I might process that photo to make it look slightly different, just to my personal sort of taste. But I normally like things to have that natural sort of look. So anyway, before I take some more questions, I know I'd normally do this right at the beginning of the video. A big thank you to all of you who have tuned in. This is the Mate 10 Pro from Huawei. This video, I should also say, was made possible by Vodafone UK, so big thank you to them for sending this out. If you want to check out Vodafone, there is a link down in the video description area to their website. And I'm really thankful because they're making these sort of videos possible. I'm getting the experience with the smartphone, and then I can pass on my experience to you. So another question we have got, Raymond Moore, how is the video quality produced viewed on a big screen monitor of yours, Dave? It's really good. The 4K video quality from this is really good, as long as you've got good lighting. If you've got mediocre lighting, not quite so good. And also if you're moving the phone quickly, like panning a lot, then video quality does suffer a bit. But if you're very careful with how you pan the phone, then you'll get good quality video. Chris Duggan says, my Mate 9 lasts for days on full use. Love it. Well, that is really good to hear. Hopefully I'll get that update soon, which is meant to absolutely transform the battery. We've also got John Bridgman saying Huawei hardware is nice but their software is awful. Returned my P10 and exchanged it for a OnePlus 5T. Good. Glad to hear that you've got a phone that satisfies your needs. Huawei isn't for everyone. OnePlus isn't for everyone. The Razer phone isn't going to be for everyone. The same as the iPhone isn't for everyone. We've all got personal tastes in what we like. The user interface isn't bad. It isn't bad. It's just not what one is used to. And don't forget, with all of this hardware, when you're running Google Android, you can put a different launcher on. So if you want to put Nova launcher on this, then you can, and then you wouldn't see the EMUI interface much at all. So there are options for you there. This is why Android is nice, because it's so customizable. Braveheart84 asks, has it got fast charging? And Al Reed's already jumped in. Thank you very much, Al. Yes, it does have fast charging, and it charges extremely fast. Very, very good indeed. And if memory serves me right, it has got a fast charger supplied inside the box as well. So there's no more questions in the chat at the moment, and don't forget super chat is there, so if you want to use that to highlight your question or comment, then please do. Let's just go over the specifications in a bit more detail. So as I said before, this has got a 6-inch screen. It is an OLED screen, so really nice saturated colours to it. Little tiny bit of colour shift. If I show you the off-axis angles on this as well, I mean, it looks good straight on, and then we get to that angle, the colours start dropping off a tiny bit. No really noticeable colour shift at all though, and it's just a nice vibrant screen, especially when you sort of put that brightness up. Let me show you that again with even more brightness. So the camera will adjust to this extra brightness, no doubt, and then off axis we've got really nice viewing angles. So very, very good indeed. And as I say, so it's a nice sort of neutral screen, a little tiny bit on the cool side, but overall nice and neutral. These are all like the quick settings that drop down from that front bar. You're getting a lot of reflection, but that's the sort of top bar there for all of the quick settings. So plenty of toggles there. Things for like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, mobile data, silent, auto rotate, airplane mode, Huawei share, the torch, screenshot. So there's a quick toggle there for doing a screenshot. Also eye comfort, setting up hotspot, navigation dock, mirror share, ultra battery, screen recording. There is a lot in there, and NFC I saw in there as well. So a lot of sort of toggles in that drop down bar. Now back to the screen. So it's an OLED screen, 6 inches in size, 2160 by 1080 resolution, 402 ppi. Contrast ratio is 70,000 to 1, which is really good, and 112% of the NTSC colour space as well. Inside it is a Kirin processor. It's a Kirin 970, which is an octa-core processor, very, very fast, and it's also got what Huawei referring to as a neural network processing unit. And from memory, again, I think that is meant to improve the way that it actually performs over time, so you shouldn't get any sort of slowdown over time. There's also like an AI element to this, where even when you haven't got a network connection and you're taking a photo, it will actually tell you what you're taking a photo of, and it will adjust the way that it colours and renders that photo accordingly. The camera interface as well, let me just jump into the camera interface. Camera interface is very good. I'm not going to give you a close-up look at this, but it is very nicely laid out, this camera interface. We've got all of the settings. We can dive into a sort of a manual mode as well. Plenty of options inside the camera interface. Android 8, as I mentioned, 6 GB RAM, 128 GB ROM, single SIM card. We've also got obviously Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.2, DisplayPort 1.2, which is really important to talk about. The Samsung Note 8 allows you to dock it into their DeX station. This one you can use a USB-C to DisplayPort 1.2 cable, actually plug it straight into a monitor. This then becomes a trackpad. You can attach an external keyboard and mouse if you want as well, and you get like a desktop experience. You don't need a dock for this, it's purely just a cable. Really nice feature. And then the specs of the cameras again, 20 megapixel monochrome camera on the back, 12 megapixel RGB, and then 8 megapixel on the front, and you're getting 4K video recording as well, and a 4000 milliamp hour battery. That's probably why I'm so disappointed, in fact, with that battery update not coming through. Is 4000 milliamp hours should give this enough to go a day and a half between charges, if not 2 days if you're like a low to medium user. And certainly I've been very disappointed with the battery life. That's the main disappointment with me on this. Really pleased with the camera quality. In comparison to the Pixel 2 XL, which I had a brief time with, I don't think the camera's quite as good as the Pixel 2 XL. In comparison to the iPhone 7 Plus, iPhone 8, 8 Plus, iPhone 10, again I don't think the camera's quite up to the specification of that. Or not specification, the quality, like the dynamic range, detail, tonal quality of the photos. But in comparison to the OnePlus 5T, I think it's on par with that. Very comparable quality to the OnePlus 5T, and a really good performance overall. And I'm saying it's really close between them all, but just the dynamic range compared to like the iPhone range is not quite as good, but it's hardly anything in it. It certainly wouldn't be a deal breaker. I'd be more than happy with the camera performance on this if I hadn't experienced anything else. So back to your questions. We got a question here from Sumu. What did you do with your FS5? I think you're referring to a Sony. That's long gone. It didn't stay in production with me or as a production piece of equipment very long at all. Raymond Moore says, is the selfie camera as good as other flagship cameras? I would say yeah, with the exception of the iPhone 7 Plus, 8 Plus, 7 and 8 as well, obviously, iPhone 10, and of course the Pixel 2 XL. I think the Pixel 2 XL has set another standard and has equalled the iPhone range, and this again comes really close to it, but not quite. But if you had this, I don't think you'd be disappointed. I don't think you'd be returning it because of the cameras. I think if you're just looking at comparative photos between different smartphones, then you might find one more pleasing than the other. But again, it's very personal opinion. Much like choosing a watch or a piece of jewellery is a very, very personal thing, and the clothes that you wear, very personal. Some people like the way certain photos look. Some people like the oversaturated look. Some people like colours to be very natural. Some like muted colours. Some shoot in RAW so they can process their photos themselves. So it's a very, very personal opinion. But saying that, I don't think the camera performance on this would disappoint you at all. And the monochrome, the 20 megapixel monochrome, wow, very, very impressive indeed. John Berry, Huawei makes some real nice watches. Yes, they do. I have experienced one of their smartwatches. I bought the B2 Fitness watch, the gold one, perfectly nice, excellent. Really glad to hear that. Really good when you hear a nice user experience about a smartwatch. So that is pretty much it. Overall, a very good smartphone. Waiting for that update. I would say to you, if you buy this, make sure you install that update, and if you're not getting it, then put pressure on your network or on Huawei themselves to push that update down to the phone, or there might be a way of forcing the update to improve that battery life. When it's actually in use though, I will just emphasise this again, I found the battery drain just to be sort of overnight. When you're using this, so screen on time, for example, we've been broadcasting for 25 minutes almost, and the battery percentage hasn't moved. So when you're actually using the smartphone, I don't think you'll have any problem at all. Oh, just one other thing I should also mention, people ask about this all the time, when you're transitioning between screens, when you're pulling down notifications, when you're web browsing and scrolling through web pages, or you're scrolling through Instagram, the actual refresh rate on the screen seems very smooth. I haven't noticed any sort of stutters, any lag or anything like that in the user interface. So it seems like they have optimized it really nicely. So that is it for my review of the Huawei Mate 10 Pro. A really good solid smartphone, feels very high quality, really high build quality, nice performance, great cameras on here as well, just lacking a little bit in the battery department or the way it's been optimized, and just lacking a bit on the user interface. It might not be for everyone, but that said, don't forget you can put a custom launcher on here. The flagship smartphones available nowadays are absolutely awesome, and I think Huawei have done a really good job with their Mate 10 Pro. If you want something a tiny bit smaller with expandable memory, then there is also the Mate 10, so the non-Pro version. It's really confusing because some of the things on the Mate 10, the non-Pro one, actually sound a little bit better than the Pro version, which is really strange why Huawei have done that. They've sort of confused me, and they may well have confused a lot of potential new customers as well. But certainly if you're looking for something that looks the part and has a really good camera and a really good overall experience, good performance, then this is well worth checking out. Thanks again to Vodafone. Check out a link to their store down in the video description. Thank you again to everyone who tuned in. I really do appreciate it. Have a fantastic weekend ahead, and I'll see you all in the next one.